in this really cool app called color.adobe.com. And this has when I opened the app, it allowed me to switch to this new tool called Lab that allows me to drop a file I created in Illustrator on here, on this side of the screen, and choose which color palette I wanted to assign to it, and it will do it for me. But beyond that means before we go into that, that assumes you already have a completely finished color palette, the color file, and that you can assign a color palette. I'm going to actually teach you the basics of doing color with this app. And again, this app comes with the Adobe package. So as long as you pay for the Adobe software, even the educational version that costs $29.99 a year or something like that, you will have the option to access this color.adobe.com. And access means store color in it. As long as you have an Adobe account and you log in, allows you to do whatever you want with this app. So I'm going to get out of Lab and go into the default, this Adobe Color. And that's what you get to when you launch Adobe Color. And what it shows you here is that you can basically make up what is allowing you to do is make up color palettes. So for example, if you say, gosh, this is an analogous and gives me the RGB color mode, so I can use RGB colors, but I want it to be a little bit different, like I'm in the blues and greens. So you can go and create this, and as you can see, you can download it as a JPEG if you want to. Let me see if I can sign in. As I said, I honestly don't remember right now on top of my head my Apple stuff. Or maybe actually let's go with the Elo Valley. Let me see if I can sign in with the Cal Poly. If you sign in, it allows you to also download that color palette as an ASE file that allows you to basically so this is a Firefox for me. Whenever I do anything on Firefox, and sorry for this, let me actually go in Chrome and do it in Chrome. There we are. If I go in Color Adobe EDU, shoot. Sorry, is giving me some trouble, but it's my computer, trust me. Okay, let's stick with the Firefox and just not worry about logging in. Sorry about that. So if you could sign in, it would allow you to download everything in multiple formats. And what I'm going to do is troubleshoot these issues for the next class. And what I'm going to show you next class is also how you can bring in your mascot, for example, and switch all the colors through this feature called Lab. But for now, what I want to show you is that you can create color palettes right here. And you can decide, okay, I don't want analogous, I want monochromatic, or I want, and you probably studied this in the color theory class that you should have had last quarter. But here you can choose which type of colors you want, and then go in and decide which kind of palette you want. And if you're signed in, you can save it to your library right here. As you can see, it asked me to sign in. Or another thing you could do is you can go into exact theme and drop again a file here. And that means this time is a JPEG, is a photograph. And that will allow you to extract the colors from that photograph. So let me try to find once again, sorry, here. Let me try to find on my desktop, on my messy desktop, that, for example, this image, and actually I created that with AI, and is, a beautiful image of a girl. And you can see I can choose the 5 color by say, okay, I like this light gray, I like the skin tone, I like this brown, perfect. This is a great color. I'm going to hit save, and that will put it in your library. Another thing you can do, I'm going to go back to create right here. So you have different modes, right? One is just going with the wheel and choose, which type of, option you want. If a custom, if you want shades of a certain one, the same color in different shades, if you want compound, whatever you want, right? You can go in and just tinker, play with it, right? Decide what is that I really like and want. And then you can create that 5 colors palette. You can choose different color spaces, hue, saturation, and brightness instead of CMYK or RGB. Or you could obviously extract the theme from a photo, or you can extract a gradient from the photo, Or you can go into Explore and see all the combination that other people did for you. So for example, these are stuff that other people did, and you can hit download as a JPEG, or again, if you log in, you can download as a ASE file that allows you to then bring it into Illustrator. I'll show you that next time, I promise. I'll start with a demo of that. But for now, what you can do is see that there are actually pretty cool, let me go in this one that I really like. They're pretty cool color palette, and you have the option to copy the colors or to even change the color. So I'm not logged in right now, but if I was, I can say I'm gonna copy this. Oh, allows you to download an ASC. I bet I need to log in though. Yeah, that's it. Sorry guys, I promise I will figure it out. I mean, I can log in with my personal stuff, but I wanted to log in with the Cal Poly because I use this within the Cal Poly environment. But bottom line, here you can find a bunch of color palettes that you can then use. And these ones were made by Robert Brown, and it's called Tangerine. And the ones that you make, you can also name, and you can also share them right here. You know, you can say, I want to log in and then send it to so and so. So this tool to me is kind of a really powerful tool to create colors. Just wanted to show it to you. And then I wanted to show you, if you do have then a palette of colors, let me show you what can you do with it. First of all, if you are in the swatches like I am right now, you can go in here and say, if you have a color you made that you really like. Let's say I go in here and I don't know you guys, but I have a very weak spot for purples. So let me find a beautiful purple like this, for example. I say I love this into my swatches. I go in here and say new swatch, and I can just say okay. Or, it added it to the default swatch, or I can click and drag it. Do you remember when, let me find a different darker purple. You can also click and drag it right there. Also, you can go in here and say, if I go in open swatch library, here you have pre-made color. For example, if you want to do something that has earth tones, you can choose earth tone, and all of a sudden this is all your fingerprint. So imagine that here you have a beautiful illustration with a bunch of different shapes, you know, making some shapes for the sake of it. And you can say, hey, look, I actually want this one to be kind of the sky. It has to be this blue. This is going to be more like the earth. And this is going to be kind of an accent. And this is going to be a deep red. You can go in and choose the color palette you like best. And again, I chose earth, but if you go and look under open swatch library, you have web, you have scientific that has analogous, complementary, split, tetrad, and triad. Patterns, you have neutrals, you have nature, you have colorful kid stuff, right? When you go into kid, look at the difference between the earth tone and the kid. The kids tend to be much more vibrant. So you have a series of pre-made color palettes that are pretty beautiful. Or you can go and say, I want to save a certain color combination I made as an ASE file, and that's it. So you kind of have options. Another thing I want to show you is, do you remember when I told you last class about the difference between process color and spot color? Right here, you can choose a spot color. And here it's going to ask you if you want to use LAB value. Do you remember when we talked about the color space, luminance, alpha, and beta? Let's use CMYK, and I'm going to say okay. And here you can create, you know, a spot color, means a custom color that you can add to your swatches, again by clicking and dragging onto here. Down here you have swatch, you know, show different color swatches. Like let's say I want gradients right here, so you can switch here between the pre-made, like this one is a pattern, right? So for example, if I have a shape that I want to assign a pattern to, boom, I click on pattern. I go in here and I click on pattern again. So you can see that we have a lot of power within. You can edit it. You can create a new group of colors by putting all in a folder, and obviously you can delete it. And down here, we have all those swatches that I was telling you, in which you can choose celebration, earth tone, kid stuff, and whatever you want to choose. So remember that the swatches palette is not just the usual default, but you have a lot of options in there. And you can use color.adobe.edu to make some, you know, combinations of colors, or to bring in a photograph and derive colors from a photo or an image you created. So color-wise, you have a lot of playtime, a lot you can do. But I also want to show you something really interesting. I'm going to close the swatches, and we'll talk about this stuff a little bit more in the future, right? When I'll show you a little bit more about how to use color and save your own combination of colors, and then how to load it into Illustrator. Another thing I want to show you is that, let's say you have a, let me create a boundary right here. And you decide that you need to color that boundary. You want to color this part. How do you do that? One way to do it, what you know right now, is you could go with the pen tool. You can say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all these on a layer right here. And I'm going to lock that layer so that it cannot go anywhere. And I'm going to use layer 2 with the pen tool. And I can click and click and click and click and click. So now I have a closed path, and I can go in my swatches and assign my pattern, right? But if your client tells you, oh yeah, I really like it, but I want this line to be a little bit further back there, what you need to do is you need to go unlock your thing, take this line, move it out, and then you have to update this. It gets pretty old, right? So what we can do instead, I'm going to move this out. I'm going to select all this. I'm going to hit K. And you can see that now my cursor turned into a paint bucket. And I can actually go in my swatches and choose a certain pattern, and it gets loaded into my paint bucket. And then I can click on here and it will assign it automatically. This is called live paint. Live paint is called live paint because it's indeed live. So if your client says, I want to move stuff, you can go with the Y arrow and move this boundary however you want to move it, and it will update automatically. K is the shortcut. So if you ever have to fill an area that is close but is not really close, it's generated by an intersection of a bunch of stuff, instead of having to go and make your own path that is incredibly hard to do, especially when you have curves, you can use live paint instead. Now remember though, it only acts on this closed area. That means if I go in and I do this, it goes away because now I don't have a closed area anymore. Is everybody with me so far? Notice the selection, right? Means if I select this, it just have a bounding box with really little empty corners at the edges, versus this one has this kind of elaborate looking thing that allows you to basically, it tells you I'm a live paint. And the fact is, the live paint is great because you can go back into K again, and you can choose with the arrow keys that you want to give it this pattern instead. And you can go with the arrow key and choose that you want it to be purple instead. Whatever you have on your swatches is at your fingertips. Is everybody with me so far? Because I want you all to follow me next to create a teddy bear with live paint. Any questions, guys? And live paint is one of the most powerful tools you have with the pen tool, because it allows you to basically color things and do things like there's no tomorrow. Now, one thing I want to show you about live paint, if you go in Object, Live Paint, Gap Options, there will be a time in which the live paint looks like it's not working. And the reason why is because, oh my goodness, sorry guys. Right now I have large gap selected, but if I have small gap, let me set that as a default and do the same thing I did earlier. I have a few lines, and this one is barely closed, and this one is actually closed. And I select this, and I do my K, and I get my pattern, right? And try to click here. It's not doing it because this gap is too big. Now notice what happens if I go back under Object, Live Paint, Gap Option, and I choose Large Gap. Now notice you can also do custom gaps. Okay, let's try again. Now it works. So remember that you also have this gap option settings that you can tweak a bit if things are not working out the way you like them to work. Okay, so what I want you to do, stay with me. I want you to create a circle. Oops, actually, let me get out. Sorry, I'm going to deselect the swatch because I don't like that is applying a swatch by default. Oh, come on. That's fine. We'll actually go in here and put a slash in the fill. I wanted you to have only strokes anyway. So I'm going to create this, the head of the bear. I'm going to create the first ear with another circle. Remember Option Shift if you want to. I'm going to actually take that first ear, Option Shift it to the other side. I'm going to create some cute eyes, little eyes. Oops. Sorry, I'm going to kind of like create a bunch of circle mainly. Like this, all stuff that you know how to do. And whenever I want to copy it, I can copy it like this. And then I'm going to create the little muzzle part, the little nose, by again creating a circle. It's black because I did the eyes filled black, but I'm switching the fill and the stroke. And then I'm going to go in and copy this. These are a bit too big, I think, so I'm going to shrink them down, move them up a bit, and then I'm going to do the last circle that is going to be the nose and the bottom part of the muzzle. So I'm going to do this. There we are. So what I'm going to do here is, if you notice, this part is going to be the nose. This part is the bottom of the muzzle. These are the cheeks, in quote. These are the ears, and this is the face. How can I color it? If I wanted to color it, I could say, oh, I'm going to make this kind of a brown color. And I'm going to make these a little bit darker of a brown, you know what I mean? That a brown that is not as light. But it doesn't work, because what I want is, I want this part to be the same of the head. Not, you know what I mean? I don't want this ear to cut into the head. Does it make sense what I'm saying, guys? It's tricky to do it that way, to do it with, you know, just trying to color it without live paint, basically. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that live paint truly is your best friend. I'm going to make the eyes a little bit different so they're not looking away from me. They're looking more into me. There we are. So what I can do is I can select all the stuff that I want to color. First of all, I'm going to take the eye part, these two, and I'm going to make them white. The inside is going to be white because the eyes are white. And I'm going to actually put it on a top layer. So I'm going to move it up to the top layer. So the eyes are, I thought, taken care of. Maybe not. Oh, because I did not select the inside. Oopsie doopsie, sorry. I'm going to shift select. So I select the eyes with the pupil, and now I move them up. So those are going to be on top of everything. Life is good. The bottom layer, in fact, I can lock it. The bottom layer, layer 1, I need to color it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it all. I'm going to go in the swatches, make sure I have colors in there. So I'm going to go into, for example, let's go in Nature Beach. Yep, I have a set of browns in there. That's great. So once I have those there selected, or actually nothing I could do is simply go with the standard library. So let me actually go and choose a brown. That's fine. And move it on here, and it will bring the standard library. As soon as you move a color in there, it will bring the standard library. That is fine. Perfect. So now I can actually go in here, and I'm going to hit K. And now I can dump color. So I can say, look, I want the ear to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to dump color here and color here. I want the muzzle part, the little cheeks, to be the same color of the ears. So I'm going in. You can see highlights the area that I'm going to color. And then I might want the bottom part to be even, you know, kind of darker. Boom. And I want this one to be black, right? So I'm going to click on black and hit black. This one is now a little bit too dark for me. So I'm going to choose more like a medium brown, maybe even a light brown. And now what I can do is select it all and take off the stroke. Boom. So now, as you can see, I have the little nose, and I could have made it a little bit smaller. Maybe it's too big. So what can I do is I can go with my live paint right now. or with my white arrow right now, select that circle and move it down. So the nose gets smaller and the bottom part gets bigger. Or I can select these two and say, I want those to be a little bit bigger. And I can make them bigger. Do you know what I mean? That later on, I can go in and do what I want, and it will update it automatically. That is pretty sweet. So this is kind of what live paint is. It allows you to basically paint certain areas of color. If you don't like it, you go back into K and say, look, I don't like this boring bear. I'm going to color it blue, and I'm going to make the face green. And you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. But the thing that is important as you understand is that live paint is kind of a way that you can paint intersecting shapes without having to make backflips. It's actually very intuitive and easy to do. Make sense? Now you can go under Object, Expand, if you decide you don't want it to be live paint anymore. And now is a regular, is a regular set of path. That means is moving, sorry, I forgot the eyes are separate, is moving all together right now because by default, when you expand, it groups it. So remember, you would have to do Command-Shift-G, and now you can grab the ear. Oops, you should be able to grab the ear. Let me go with the white arrow. I'm sorry, I was going with the black arrow, my fault. And now you can grab the ear and move it. Remember, this is another piece, right? Because it was born with, live paint. So things are kind of, you're kind of different. It means you can now have this as a full circle because it was started with live paint in which these were kind of colored differently. So is it clear to everyone, guys, what live paint is? Did you guys all succeeded? Let me go back to seeing you guys. How's it going, guys? Did everybody get it? Awesome. All right, so these are really what I wanted to cover today. I try to always leave you some time at the end for lab time. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go look at the discussion because I have skipped it, unfortunately, in the first 2 weeks because we had too much going on and the classes. I think we missed one class for a holiday or something like that, or two, I forget. But right now I really want to do what we should do every first week of the class. It is even briefly for a few minutes, spend some time talking about design and looking at the discussion. So I'm going to do that next. And then as usual, because I love to leave you always some time at the end for yourself, I'm going to obviously do that too, is leave you some time to do your exercises. Sorry, actually, let me stop the sharing first and look at the screen find what I need, the class. Oops, right here. Perfect. So let me go in discussions. And we are in week 3 discussion by now. Let me go back to screen sharing. There we are. So, so you have to watch this video, and this is week 3, and then post stuff about this video. So what I'm going to ask you very briefly is, why did you choose this poster versus another one, right? So I want you guys just tell us, what did you gather from that? Because most of my little videos cover more than one thing on design. Some are more about contrast, some like this particular poster. If you look at the design of this one, obviously the contrast, the color contrast really matters, but even the scale matters, right? And most of these are really going to be pretty beautiful. So I'm going to quickly ask to each of you that posted it, just what did you intend us to see the most? And I know some of you were really amazing and wrote it, but so that we don't all have to read every post, give us a very quick, brief kind of like reasoning for what you chose. So this is Ava, I believe, right? Yep, Ava. Can you tell us just briefly, why did you like this piece in particular?
I liked it because I thought it showed a good example of one with the contrast you said, but also like it's a clear focal point, obviously, because it's like in the center. Everything's in the center, and I kind of liked the silhouette of the figures and everything, and how the black kind of draws your eyes to the center, and then it leads you to the black text and everything like that. So
yeah, it's great. Yeah. The only thing I tend to always protest against is that the center is always a safe choice. So I tend to appreciate immensely when I find a design in which things works beautifully that is actually not slapped in the center. So pay attention sometimes to that. like this one. This one is a little bit, because of all the diagonal, you kind of lose a little bit of the center, and you see how interesting it is. Another thing I love is how the type looks like it's almost weighting, it's heavy on this figure. It means the negative space here is kind of tight enough that almost feels like the typography is compressing, or is kind of like heavy on the figure. So there's a little bit of pain involved, no matter what is the topic of this performance, what this poster is about. It seems to kind of, to me, potentially convey that type of emotional, perception. But this is also really nice. Why did you choose this one though, in particular?
I thought it was a good example of the rule of thirds. It's like a really simplistic photo shot, but I kind of liked it because I think it keeps it more natural looking.
Yeah, I don't know
Like
if
the
it's
rule of
really though.
thirds.
If I cut this thing in height in 3 points, this guy would, it's supposed to be at the intersection, and this is a
Yeah,
little bit up. I don't know if it's rule of third, but
it's not quite
yeah,
exactly, but I think it's
it's
closer to the bottom two-third of the intersection
yeah, no, it's great.
there.
It's good, very good. What about you, On? Now, you can comment on any of these images, not on all. Tell us a little bit of which one of these three, or all of the three briefly. What does it matter for you in those? What is important? Is it the
Oh,
contrast? Is it the composition? What did you appreciate?
I like the competition because like they place like the thing in the middle, like it really attract the picture. Like for nice, like for example, like the second one, like for the big hand, it's like lead your eye and then like it's going down to see like the small person, and like
Yeah,
the colors like really contrast.
I love that. That is so true. Means you kind of want to go, because this is so high contrast and has kind of like, it has a big focus. I tend to actually go up here because of the hand, and then wander down the figure, and then go down even more, and then because of this plane being, in perspective the way it is, I go all the way down to this figure back here. So you're right, it really is excellent in the way it leads the eyes. Very nicely done. And this one I really like, that is about obviously music and musical, and they're walking on top of a musical note. I think that's kind of really interesting too. What about this one? This is spectacular. Beautiful poster.
Oh, for that one, it's like the bows like the leading eye to the title, which I really like, and then there's like a wave of like making you follow it.
Yeah, and it has a kind of rhythm to it, and pattern is very nicely done. Beautiful. By the way, there's a great movie. This is a fabulous book and movie if you guys want to, if you haven't seen it yet. What about Erin? What do you like of the fish?
I really like how simplistic the entire design is, but I also really like how the red and blue like really contrast against the white background and makes the entire poster pop.
It is good. I'm kind of torn about this one. This one almost like feels like it doesn't necessarily belong there. I mean, if I was to ask you, why is this guy down here and not somewhere else? What would you say?
Mm, I would say that like I guess the focus is the Koi festival, but you wouldn't necessarily know where it is. I guess if I were doing this, I would probably put the Boston somewhere near the bigger Koi festival text.
Yeah,
But
or
this is also like a fictional poster
like
that
take this and put it maybe here. Means it doesn't really have a reason to be all the way down here. You know what I mean? That when I look at this poster, I see the fish, I'll see the red, I wander through the red, and almost feel like if it was here, I would read it, and then I move to the blue and read all the blue. But my attention stays up here. It doesn't want to go down to this guy. What I mean here is I'm highlighting that is because remember, whatever you put in your composition has to have a reason to be there, right? If this guy was down here, you could have said, hey, because it's using the negative space that is generated by the blue text and the red circle. It's trying to play onto that negative space, and because the focus is already here, so it's just trying to continue your focus, through here. But there isn't really a real serious reason why it would be in that particular spot. I cannot come up with one. And that's a weakness in this poster. So you'll see these kind of quick discussion would point out also things that are not ideal. So then when you create your own work, you can kind of think about it. It doesn't need to be there. Is that the right location? Is the right composition? Is the right everything? Talking about the right everything, this is beautiful. This is a fabulous poster. It's really nice. And then the New Yorkers are always amazing. Yeah, this is cool. I love the diagonal composition. Very nice. And don't you love the three-dimensionality? Like this is behind, right? That kind of like effect, and with the, yeah, it's very, very nicely done. What about Kira? What do you like of these three posters? I know you told us in text, but.
Yeah, for the first one, I liked how the title is super contrasting with the back. It's like the first thing you see because of its like bright red color compared to the blue. And then like the second thing my eyes are drawn to is the person, and then their shadow kind of like leads you right back to the title, and then it creates like a visual, like a circular pathway for your eyes to follow.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. What about the other two? Why did you pick the other two? What was it special about them?
Similarly, I feel like they both have super, like their focal points have like very contrasting color to the background. So like for the second one, the girl in the yellow dress, like that's the first thing you see. And then for the third one, obviously the girl in the red. And also like the focal point is her because she's in the direct center for that one, for the third one.
Yeah.
And then the second one also sort of uses the rule of thirds.
The second one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. What about Trey? You have some really good.
Yeah, for this one, I particularly like the Jaws poster. It's very minimalist. Draws attention to like, I kind of like how they use the shark fin in like blending in with the water, same color. And then there's also like some motion space to the left, which kind of implies that the boat's moving. But yeah.
So what if the word Jaws was down here? Would it, let's say it was in a darker color or in the brighter blue that is in the boat down here, and this was black, means why does it have to be up here?
I would say because it's a good breakup of the composition. I think if you had just a full black, full black sky, I feel like there's too much empty space there.
You know, there's never too much empty space, and the empty space is your best friend. Yeah, I mean, I think it could have been either way. I don't think that the two, if there was black here, we would suffer. It could have been down here as well. I'm just debating why up here is any better. But first of all, I would have to see it both ways. I would have to reconstruct, you know, basically open up this in Photoshop, have this text move down here, make this black, and move and make that text maybe a different color because maybe it would be too bright white. I don't know, means I would have to tinker with it as usual. But yeah, I always wonder. But my point is, whenever you look at a composition, ask those type of questions. Means ask yourself, you know, what if the jaw was somewhere else? How would it be? This one, for example, is a beautiful, I love all the diagonal of this. And I almost wonder, what if this text was on a diagonal too? What would happen? You know, if this text was kind of writing this diagonal, what would have happened? I'm not saying that it's bad what is happening there, but I'm just curious, can it be any other way? You know how when I tell you guys at the beginning of every project, you have to go and hunt for references and blah, blah, and do a mood board. And oftentimes I tell you, it's really hard to invent something new. It's truly hard. But what you can do is look at something that has already been done and do it differently. And that's why in these discussions, I often ask you, what if this poster was slightly different? What would have happened? Because, you know, there are always many options. But good choice, Trey. I like it. What about Amelie? Is she there? Is Amelie here with us? Which one do you like better? What do you want to tell us about your posters, the ones you chose?
I think my favorite one is probably the third one at the bottom. If you scroll down, yeah. I think I like the blame one just because I think the whole idea, like, to get away with murder, you can't make mistakes. And it's like, it draws your eye to like the figure that's standing. And I think that the body just laying there half way on the screen is really intriguing to me.
It is beautiful. Yep, very nicely done. That one, it would be very hard to change anything. It means it would butcher it for sure. Good choice. What about Ashley? Ashley actually gives us links.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The photos weren't copying and pasting into the doc. So I just put the image link there.
This is a photo, right? Though it's not. I mean, it's still it's fine, guys. If you have photos, if that proves contrast and stuff, it works just as well. But why is this photo about contrast or about what the video is about?
So the still from this movie, it follows the rule of thirds. The door frame on the right hand side is in line with the most right line if you were to split the screen into three. And it really just draws attention to the center figure, the character Jack. And I thought it was a really cool composition.
But the rule of third means it would be one line here, and then one line. It actually doesn't follow the rule of third, because the rule of third would have the intersections here, 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 and here, and all the actions are in the middle. I actually don't see the rule of third in here at all. The rule of third is when generally you have a prominent element in the intersection between the division of the screen, 3 ways in horizontal and 3 ways in vertical. So I have a hard time seeing the rule of third here, but it's okay. And what about, let's see this one. What about this one? Why is this one particularly interesting?
So I really liked the clouds in the background with this one, and I thought it had great leading lines throughout the image. The different swirls and things and the different colors that it uses draws your eyes across the whole page and surrounds it to the most important elements.
Cool. Awesome. And we have Rachel with Pulp Fiction. Oh, I've never seen Pulp Fiction with this poster. I've seen it in many other ways. Rachel, which one do you like better? What do you want to tell us?
I think I like the third one the most just because for me it stands out the most. Although if I were to make this poster, I would probably make the Back to the Future text or logo actually just a bit bigger because I feel like it's a bit small. But I like it just because of how the car stands out and how the kind of like colors really pop out where it's flames almost on the car, but once it gets out of the car, it just kind of like leads your eyes to the actual title of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this guy though doesn't seem to go with the other. You know, I mean, these things that the Back to the Future text looks a bit disconnected from the rest. But oh, I love Metropolis. That's a great one. So what about Garrison? Ooh, and Up is pretty cool too. Which one do you like better, Garrison? Which one do you want to talk about?
I like the Up one at the bottom.
Oh, this one.
Yes.
You like the diagonal composition, or what do you like?
Yeah, I like how it's kind of a worm's eye view, and it starts on the bottom right corner with for like the primary subject, and then the hose that they're all holding on to kind of creates a leading line all the way up to the title, which is kind of skewed, like has that skewed perspective, so it's all kind of connected.
Yeah.
And again, like the stark white title against the blue sky.
Yeah, I like that this one is cute, like you're saying, because it creates a bit of a loop in there, right? Yeah, that's cool. What about Caitlin? That's an interesting choice, Caitlin.
Yeah, I really like the first one that I picked. I was using what the video talked about with the looking, where the person's looking. And I think since the eyes of the figure are on the rule of third, and then it's also looking out into the distance, it makes a really cool contrast of like leading the eye towards that right hand side of the picture.
Yep, that is true. Definitely. Nice. What about Jawei?
Hey, so this first photo is just, I think, a good example of motion, especially with that receiver being chased by the defender on the right side, with it having that much open space on the left side. Really gives that sense of motion, especially with the way they're running.
Yeah.
That combined with the yard lines, I think, really gets, because they're running along a parallel line, so it just really contributes to the motion part of that.
Yeah, that is true.
And then this was an example of looking space. Scene really stands out, really cinematic, high contrast. Got the guy and his dog just staring into a blank, like calm, open space.
Yeah, That is true.
And then this one, it's both a combination of leading the viewer's eye with that river, but then also a good usage of the rule of thirds. You have the horizon being the sky, being the 1/3 top part of the image, combined with the lower two portions of that being the foreground. And then you also have the intersection on the top right of the tree in focus, in contrast against the like foggy background, with the river ultimately leading up to that tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice photos. All kind of, like you said, very clear and clean. What they're trying to do means the emotion that you feel by looking at these images is clear. There's no doubt about it. Oh, I love character design. Kian, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of monsters and stuff. Yeah, the first one I think is a really good example of leading lines and like directing the viewer around the image, because the body is just like the body and tail are like really curved, and I think it kind of just leads really well around the entire image.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the shadows of this leg though. Do you see how this leg has a shadow taking off from there, and this one doesn't seem to? I mean, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of shadow problem, but no, don't worry about it. I love that this one is diagonal, because when you have a diagonal horizon, there's a sense of kind of like anxiety, kind of like danger, right? And this creature looks kind of dangerous, even though it seems like a simple fern, but is also kind of like a bit of a monster fern, right? At the same time.
Yeah.
And I like the sense of depth and the lighting. Very nicely done. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and in this one, I think is also a good example of the low angle shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can really see how far up into the air the character is.
Yeah. And Michael, what do you like? What do you like?
Hi.
Oh,
I like the first one because it's very minimalistic.
Yeah. Very simple. That's true.
Yeah, very simple. The spotlight creates nice leading lines.
Notice how some of the design we like the most have 3 colors. So that kind of, my point is, it really, for example, there was one that I really liked, but I did not like the million colors up here. Means I like this composition, but I wonder, do we really need to have all these blues, means I wonder if it was cleaner, if it didn't have this explosion of color, if we would appreciate it more. I don't know. I'm one of those people that with colors, I try to be as minimalistic as I can. Like same for this one, right? It has the tan, has the red, and has the black, really. And it works really well. You know, the tan, the red, and the blues. So oftentimes think about your colors and wonder, do I really need so many? Ella, what about you? This is a great poster.
Yeah, I like the first one, I think, the most, just because like everything's kind of leading to the ballerina, like the beak of the bird, the wings kind of like swoop in, and then they all lead to the ballerina. And then if you follow the reflection down, it goes to the text, which I think like is a good line of visuals.
It is a good line of visuals. There's one thing that kind of bugs me. Do you see how the A is just not aligned with this kind of this negative space, this little hole here, this little nook in here? It almost feels like if the A was aligned with it, it would be like it's poking it or is supporting it. There's something in this negative space that seems like it's screaming for it could be better. I don't know why. I like that it has only really one color, the red, right? Because black and white doesn't count. I also like this kind of like the shadows of the people that looks like a tiger claws has scratched the earth. I really like that. This is too much for me, too busy. It kind of makes me want to run away. But I know it's a great movie. Everybody told me that. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Good choice. Oh, The New Yorker again. What about Maria Jose? Which one do you like better? Oh, I love this movie. And this one is fantastic design as well.
I think the one that I liked the best was probably the Rocky one or the New Yorker. I like the Rocky poster just because of like the simple colors. There's only like so much going on, and it just really draws your attention to like the running man at the top, because there's like 2 directional lines. First, like the black silhouette going into the stairs, which leads you to the man. And then also the words Rocky, because it's the same color as the man, it also leads you to it. And I just like how there's like a clear focal point and it's really simple.
I love the depth, right? It feels like you're diving into the poster because of the stairs. And it's really, really nicely done. What about June? Ooh, that's interesting, June. Something tells me you like photography, do you?
Yeah, I'm taking a photo class, so I'm just trying to like look at more ways of incorporating what you talked about in the video and like photography. I like the first picture because it kind of uses like both vertical lines and then horizontal lines and like an actual defined horizon. So you kind of get that contrast of like the heightened energy that you mentioned in the video from the vertical, but then also like the peaceful, serene from the horizon. And it kind of makes it like eerie.
Yeah, very nice. Very nicely done. Even this one, with this kind of crack in the ocean, is so kind of like different and improbable. What about Jack? Which one do you like, Jack? The Star Wars, this one? I remember this movie actually. It's not a movie. I think I read the book about the guy that cuts off his arm. Is it?
Yeah, that's that one.
Yeah, but talk about negative space in there. Isn't it amazing? So which one do you like better? I think you have picked completely different one. It means that this one is so kind of old looking and this is so kind of crisp and new and bright looking, and this one is something kind of in between. Tell us about those.
Yeah, I like the Star Wars one the best, just because of the compositional elements that it uses. I feel like with the main characters using the rule of thirds, they're kind of like off to the side. That leaves more room in the background for the other characters and then part of the setting. And then with the kind of horizontal and vertical lines stemming from the lightsaber, I feel like that draws your eyes in and then directs them down to the main characters. And then like the visual hierarchy as well, how like Vader is, more of like an obvious figure just because he's made larger, but still in the background, so you don't look him first. And then even with all the like X-wings, the little starfighters in the background, that they're all kind of like leading up in one line pointing to the Death Star. I kind of like how this one ties into like just the plot of the movie while including like, a number of the prominent characters. I just feel like it's a really good composition, like uses a lot of details really well.
Cool. And Sophia. Ooh, a blurry Monet. Poor Monet. He's flipping in his grave right now. Keeps flipping.
Oh yeah, I don't know why it came out so blurry, but for the Monet one, I first of all I just love landscape paintings, and I thought his work is really interesting because this whole series has a lot of the same elements where it drags your eyes directly towards either the pond or the lilies, but this one was in specific. If the image was clear, you could see how everything is very monotone, but it still drags your eyes directly to the bridge, with that being the focal point, and I thought that was really beautiful. And then down here, I associated Apple with hierarchy because of the way they essentially use like size, color, placements, and the way they use typography with font saying like hello at the front, and then how each step gets smaller and smaller, and how at the very end you have all your wires and AirPods and all of that. I thought it's really interesting how they do their packaging, and very clean and simple. And then with the sculpture at the bottom, I found it very interesting.
Boccioni is one of the big figure of futurism, right? Futurismo. I don't know if you know the movement, but it's pretty. What did you like of the Boccioni sculpture?
Well, when I was researching, I wanted to see if I could find something besides a poster or an painting, and I came across these sculptures, and I've never really heard of Boccioni. Is that how you pronounce it? Boccioni. I've never seen his work before, but I found it so interesting because all of these very geometrical shapes create one beautiful image, and I could see the motion through each and every joint locking in with one another, and you can see the direction it's going. Even though it's not directly an image of a man, you can kind of interpret that through the different shapes.
And it's not just a man, but it feels like it's moving. Part of this group of Boccioni and the other people in the Futurismo, there's always this kind of like ingrained sense of motion and change. There's nothing really that feels like a still. Is beautiful. I saw a great exhibit when I was in Italy. I spent 4 months in Italy, and it was incredibly. It was all in like many, both paintings and sculptures in this palace, and I remember being just blown away. That's wonderful, guys. Very nice choice, all of you. Thank you so much. So it's 2:08, and you remember I always try to leave you 1 hour. Let's go look though what is due first, and then I'm gonna let you go because I always try to leave you the last hour to do homeworks and stuff. Let's go in week 4. So we are gonna have learning resources next week again, and we're gonna cover going more in detail into tracing figures and stuff. I'm going to teach you these technique called blends that allows you to do eyelashes, shadows. I'm going to show you something called inking. So we're going a little bit more advanced into making your lines interesting. And then we talk again about, colors and stuff. That is what we're talking today. I said the color part is going to be in 2 parts, and next class we're going to go into colors again, and that's where I'll show you more. So next week we're going to talk again about colors and lines, because there's a lot of tools. I want you to teach you the blob tools, another kind of beside the width tool. Other tools are really handy, and then as usual we have discussion and exercises. So always I hope what is due. You'll always have the first day the discussion, the second day the project or that we're working on, and then on Sunday there are always the exercises. So I look forward to Thursday seeing your project. Now be very careful. Means what I suggest you do is every time something is due, go in there and see what is due, but also go and read the overall description of in there, and what is due. There's always lists what are the requirement. It tells you, okay, in again, let me go in week 3, for example, for Thursday, it tells you, hey, you need to make sure that you have, not exercises, but the project, I apologize. Right here. It says, make sure that you have the mascot illustration, has to be in a container, has to have some kind of title or text that is customized. That means you not only take the type of someone that designed that type, but you kind of tweak it, change it a bit. That's why I showed you how to create outline, curve it, do things like that. And then it has to have a banner or ribbon. And you want to have 3 different style or color palettes. So you need to start playing with colors and brushes and styles of the line. That is what we introduced today. So obviously, this is something that needs to be in there. But if you kind of lost track of what is really this project again about, I kind of remember it, but not that great. Let's go in overview once again and read what it's about. You need to make sure that you have a combination of an animal and a concept. Right? So look at the objectives. Means don't lose the overall target, because ultimately all your deadlines need to contribute toward a final that needs to satisfy all of these requirements and objectives. So every once in a while, go back to read what it's all about, so you never risk to miss the goal and to end up having to earn less points for this project, because all the projects are a big chunk of points, right? 15 points is not bad, right? Overall in the 100 that you're earning, I think there are 4 projects, 15 points each, so it's 60% of your grade is the projects. That is pretty heavy. So make sure you don't miss the opportunity not only to do a good job in terms of the illustrator part and the design, but also fulfill all the requirements. Because if you go out in the real world, no matter which job you do, if it's photography or design or drawings, you often have a client telling you what to do, and those are those constraints and requirements that we plug into these projects. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question. For the stuff that's due Thursday, do you want those done in Illustrator or just a sketch again?
I think right now you should start looking into going into Illustrator. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Remember to have the multiple colors. I mean, give me multiple options, because we're still searching though, right? Even though you're now finally going to the software because you have a refined sketch that you like, you have chosen the animal you want. But still, another thing I want to tell you, if you guys, let me stop the recording.